time, one time. One time, one time. Hi, what's up? There's a kid, Judah. They got into a terrible car accident. He was rushed to the emergency room. They had to take off his left arm. Had to be amputated. You can imagine he's so depressed. He couldn't do what his friends were doing at school. He was handicapped. His father wanted to do something special for him to make him feel like a superstar. His father figured he could sign him up to karate and potentially he could still master the different levels even with one hand. And sure enough, his teacher every time would teach him a certain hook punch with the right hand. Every time he came in, it was the same thing. They did the hook punch and they practiced that move again and again. And eventually, Judah said to his teacher, "Teacher, I'm ready for the sensei. I'm ready for the next level. Could we learn something else besides that hook punch?" And his teacher said, "The only thing you have to know is this hook punch. This is what I want you to master." He did it every time. Obviously, it was so annoying for him to do just one move. Eventually, they had competitions where their school was fighting against other schools. This was a national fight. And Judah was the last standing competitor for the school. He was fighting the other kid. And he punches the other kid. He does a hook punch and he knocks him down to the floor and he wins the fight. And he comes over to his coach afterwards. And he said, "How did you know I'm going to knock him down with that hook punch? How did you know it?" And his teacher said, "You see, that hook punch, there's only one way to block it. And you know how that way is? By grabbing the opponent's left hand. The only way for that guy to block your punch was to grab your left arm. But you don't have a left arm, sadly. But because you don't have a left arm, that's how you won the fight." Wow, Judah realized his very fault was what made him a champion. And many times in our lives, it's the things that people are making fun of us. Those are our greatest assets, our greatest tools. The thing that you're so embarrassed about and people make fun of you, that is your greatest asset, very possibly. When I was like 16, 17, maybe even 15, I was in yeshiva, and if we came late to class, the Rebbe would lock the door. You had to come by 9 o'clock. If you came 9:05, the door was locked, you couldn't get in. And one morning, I came a little late. I was locked out, and a few kids were in the hallway. Me and a few kids were all locked out. So we decided we'll go to a store across the street. Big mistake. You can't just go to a store in the middle of school. We went to this store, and we came back 15 minutes later, and the Rosh Yeshiva greeted us by the door. He said, sarcastically, "Where were you guys?" So I was like the unofficial spokesperson for all the boys, and I said, "Oh, we took a walk." And he got so mad at me. He said, "Shella, you always have something to say. Well, why don't you just walk home?" And I felt terrible. Like, he said, "I always have something to say. I can't keep my mouth shut." I felt terrible. Now, many years later, I've heard that your number one faults are really your greatest assets. And the biggest failures in your life, you could turn it into lemonade. And I was thinking, I remember that Rosh Yeshiva screamed at me that I always have something to say. I can't keep my mouth shut. And I said, you know something? The Rosh Yeshiva said about me that I always have something to say. I always have something to say. I should be sharing Divrei Torah by the table because I'm that person that always has something to say. I'm the person that should be speaking by a Sheva Brachos because I always have something to say. And those very words that were hurtful when I was 15 years old gave me the energy to write books, a minute var and one-time stories, and to speak to you because I realized he said about me, I always have something to say. So the greatest fault that people maybe make fun of you that, oh, you have this, you're like that, that may be something that you're impacting thousands of people because of that very fault. It may be your greatest asset. Thank you so much for listening.